clear path to a swift diplomatic solution. Third, in its vote last week, this Council fulfilled the necessary steps of the snapback process set out in Resolution 2231. Therefore, UN sanctions targeting Iranian proliferation will be reimposed this weekend. All member states are obliged to comply fully with these sanctions, as required by the UN Charter. President, I reiterate, however, that the United Kingdom remains committed to pursuing a diplomatic solution that ensures Iran never acquires a nuclear weapon, while maintaining Iran's right to a civil nuclear programme in line with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Our commitment to diplomacy remains steadfast and is not exhausted. We stand ready to continue discussions with Iran on a diplomatic solution to address international concerns about its nuclear programme. In turn, this could allow for the lifting of sanctions in the future. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for the statement. Now I give the floor to representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let me also start by welcoming the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran to this meeting. Mr. President, last week, the Security Council decided to reimpose sanctions against Iran. Despite Denmark's hope for a breakthrough in the negotiations before the deadline, we regret that the intensive diplomatic efforts this past week, including at the highest level, have not borne fruit. We have still not seen the necessary steps from Iran that would enable us to support an extension of the provisions of Resolution 2231, especially not unconditionally, as today's draft resolution had proposed. It is also problematic that the draft resolution did not call for Iran's return to full cooperation with the IAEA. Adopting today's draft resolution would serve only to prolong a situation that is fundamentally untenable. Therefore, Denmark's position remains the same today as last week. As we have previously expressed, we are deeply concerned about Iran's nuclear program and its accumulation of highly enriched uranium stockpiles, which lack any credible civilian justification. Iran has been in non-compliance with the JCPOA since 2019, and the expiration date of the agreement has been known to all of us for the past decade. The activation of the snapback mechanism was not a hasty decision, nor was it taken lightly, but there was no alternative in this situation. For these reasons, Denmark voted against this draft resolution. Mr. President, our vote should not be mistaken for opposition to diplomacy. Quite the contrary. It is because we value genuine negotiations that we could not support a text that, in our view, undermined the possibility for ensuring a result that delivers on the overarching goal that Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon. Extending deadlines does not strengthen diplomacy. Delays do not encourage compromise. Denmark's strong belief in the power of diplomacy remains, also after the sanctions are reimposed. We sincerely hope that Iran will change its nuclear course and return to the negotiating table in good faith. I thank you.
I thank representative of Denmark for their statement. Now I give the floor to representative of United States.
Thank you, President. As we made clear last week, the United States supports the case France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, the E3, made for Iran's significant and continuing non-performance of its nuclear commitments. And we support the reimposition of pre-2015 UN sanctions on Iran in accordance with the process laid out in Resolution 2231. The reimposition of these measures, which will go into effect the evening of September 27th, is not arbitrary. Those measures are narrowly scoped to address the threat posed by Iran's nuclear, missile, and conventional arms programs and support for terrorism. And snapback of these measures does not preclude removal through diplomacy. But at this stage, there is no basis for changing course. Despite suggestions to the contrary, Iran has still failed to address E3 concerns regarding its highly enriched uranium stockpile, compliance with its IAEA obligations, and resumption of direct diplomacy with the United States. We are pleased that the Council rejected this last-ditch effort by the Russian Federation and China to call into question these facts and suggest that an extension would be warranted. The Russian Federation-China text is a hollow effort to relieve Iran of any accountability for its continued significant non-performance of its nuclear commitments, and all without requiring tangible diplomatic progress. If the Russian Federation and China want to help realize a durable, negotiated outcome on the Iranian nuclear issue, rather than seek to bolster an untenable status quo of flagrant Iranian efforts to undermine the global non-proliferation regime, then they must press leaders in Tehran to take meaningful, immediate steps to fulfill its commitments and obligations, including by fully cooperating with the IAEA. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. Now I give the floor to representative of Algeria.
شكرا سيد الرئيس على برمجة عقد هذه الجلسة للتصويت على مشروع القرار الذي تقدمت به كل من روسيا والصين وهما مشكورتين. ونرحب بمشاركة السيد عباس عراقجي وزير خارجية الجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية معنا في هذا الاجتماع. سيد الرئيس، انطلاقا من قناعتنا الراسخة بأن المساعي السياسية والدبلوماسية هي السبيل الوحيد للتوصل إلى حل سلمي ودائم للملف النووي الإيراني، صوتت الجزائر لصالح مشروع القرار القاضي بتمديد تقني للقرار 2231. فهذا الإجراء يمثل خطوة ضرورية لإتاحة الوقت اللازم الذي يمكن أن يسمح باستئناف المفاوضات بين جميع أطراف خطة العمل الشاملة المشتركة. وفي واقع الأمر نأسف لفشل مجلس الأمن في اعتماد هذا النص، فبهذا يكون مجلسنا هذا قد فوت فرصة أخرى لتشجيع الحوار وتهدئة التوترات وإفساح المجال أمام العمل الدبلوماسي. وكما أكدنا عليه باستمرار وبإلحاح، فإن أي بديل للحل السلمي للملف النووي الإيراني ينطوي على مخاطر ذات عواقب وخيمة على منطقة الشرق الأوسط وعلى السلم والأمن الدوليين. ومما لا شك فيه فإن المحادثات والمشاورات الأخيرة بين مختلف الأطراف الفاعلة في هذا الملف، بما في ذلك الترتيبات العملية التي توصلت إليها إيران والوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية في 9 سبتمبر الفارط، تثبت بأن الحوار والجهود السياسية والدبلوماسية الرامية إلى إيجاد حل عن طريق التفاوض لا تزال ممكنة. فبالرغم من إخفاق مجلس الأمن اليوم في تبني مشروع القرار، فإن الجزائر تجدد دعوتها لجميع الأطراف إلى ممارسة أقصى درجات ضبط النفس وتفادي اتخاذ مزيد من الإجراءات التصعيدية والانخراط بشكل بناء في مفاوضات بحسن نية، سعيا للتوصل إلى حل شامل ودائم وملائم للملف النووي الإيراني. وشكرا.
I thank the representative of Algeria for the statement. Now I give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Pakistan has voted in favor of the draft resolution. Our position on this matter is based on our strong belief that diplomacy and dialogue should remain the guiding principle for the resolution of outstanding issues concerning Iran's nuclear program. We strongly support the basic premise of the draft resolution, which is to allow more time to diplomatic efforts through a technical extension of the Resolution 2231. In the Council's consideration of this issue, we repeatedly heard members lending support to diplomacy and a negotiated solution to Iran nuclear issue. We also consistently heard that the time was not enough for diplomatic solution and talks need more time. We have come to a stage where buying more time would be a critically important prerequisite to move forward. With this in mind, the only logical step, in our view, would be a technical extension of Resolution 2231. Such a decision would not impinge on any party's rights or responsibilities, but provide more time for diplomatic efforts to find a lasting solution acceptable to all states and for reaching consensus within this Council. Mr. President, Pakistan has consistently advocated the primacy of diplomatic engagement and the imperative of avoiding confrontation and conflict. In our view, the JCPOA provided the best blueprint for resolution of Iran nuclear issue, outlining rights, commitments, obligations and responsibilities of relevant parties. The spirit and basic framework of JCPOA could still prove useful if there is a mutual desire to move forward in a spirit of compromise. Just like any international agreement, the implementation of the JCPOA is a shared responsibility of all parties concerned. Any disputes and differences arising from its implementation should be resolved in a cooperative manner without resort to extreme measures. We believe that coercive measures would not resolve outstanding issues, but complicate them further. Sanctions will directly hurt ordinary Iranians and diminish the prospects of regional connectivity, trade, and economic development. Imposition of sanctions will not just be damaging for the targeted country, but also impact its neighborhood and beyond. Pakistan, therefore, opposes intimidation or coercion and calls for a cooperative approach, focusing on mutual recognition of core concerns and redressal measures by all parties concerned. Rather than sticking to maximalist positions, there is a need for realistic expectations and accommodation of a consensual, peaceful solution. The nature of challenges require more, not less diplomatic efforts and engagement. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. Now I give the floor to representative of Guyana.
Mr. President, Ambassador Jihuncha, since this is the first time I'm taking the floor since your arrival, allow me to extend a warm welcome to the Security Council and the United Nations. I also acknowledge the presence of the representative of Iran in this meeting. Mr. President, Guyana recognizes the urgency and importance of addressing the Iranian nuclear issue, and we appreciate the efforts of the pen holders, China and the Russian Federation, to give breathing space for diplomacy. We reiterate our position that multilateralism and diplomacy must be fully utilized to resolve complex international issues, such as the one being discussed today. Our view is that the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action remains a crucial instrument for ensuring the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program and for promoting regional and international security. We took note of the positive elements contained in the draft resolution, including its call for the immediate resumption of negotiations among all original participants of the JCPOA, and its welcoming of the recent agreement between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. However, since this is the second resolution on the issue in just a week, brought by different parties to the JCPOA, it is clear that there are differences in approach on how to address the underlying issues that have stalled progress in implementing the JCPOA as endorsed by Resolution 2231. Guyana is therefore of the view that a technical extension may not be enough to make progress. We believe a more comprehensive approach involving all participants is required to foster a lasting diplomatic solution to the Iranian nuclear issue. We urge all parties to engage in good faith to resolve their differences and security concerns by prioritizing dialogue as a matter of urgency. The path of dialogue and mutual respect is the only way to achieve a durable solution that is in the best interest of all. Dialogue, however, Mr. President, requires first and foremost an agreement among the concerned parties to have that dialogue. Without such a foundation, in the spirit of mutual respect and shared purpose, the conversation takes another form. With the approaches taken on this file, one resolution last week, another today, one must question whether at this time we have a true commitment to dialogue. It is with this consideration and with the hope that the parties can come to an agreement on the way forward that Guyana abstained on this resolution. In closing, Guyana reaffirms its commitment to working with the Council to ensure, working with all Council members to ensure that all concerns related to the Iranian nuclear issue can be resolved expeditiously. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Guyana for the statement. Now I give the floor to the representative of Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the People's Republic of China and the Russia Federation for tabling the draft resolution and for their continued engagement in seeking a diplomatic solution to this complex and sensitive matter. The initiative has created an opportunity for dialogue among all involved parties, which Sierra Leone strongly supports. We also welcome the participation of the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran in today's meeting. Sierra Leone once again notes the broader geopolitical context within which the Council has been called upon to discharge its charter responsibilities, namely maintaining international peace and security and addressing threats thereto. We are mindful of the provisions of the Charter and of international law that provide for lawful redress for internationally wrongful acts of states, including in the present context concerning the Islamic Republic of Iran. In our previous vote on the text submitted by the President of the Security Council, we explained our principled position on non-proliferation cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the importance of sustained dialogue among the relevant parties. Sierra Leone remains firmly committed to the integrity of the global non-proliferation and disarmament architecture and to the peaceful settlement of dispute through political and diplomatic dialogue. Compliance with the NPT and its safeguards, including unrestricted IAEA monitoring, is essential to building trust, strengthening confidence, and ensuring regional stability. We therefore welcome reports that Iran and the IAEA have signed an agreement aimed at resuming cooperation after a period of suspension. This agreement, concluded on 9 September 2025 and facilitated by the Arab Republic of Egypt, outlines practical steps for implementing safeguards and enhancing transparency regarding Iran's nuclear facilities. It represents a significant strand of the ongoing negotiations, a step towards rebuilding trust, addressing Iran's security concerns, and ensuring compliance with the NPT Safeguards Agreement. While, however, recognizing the stated aim of the draft to create space for negotiations through a 6-month technical extension of arrangements linked to Resolution 2231, we note that the proposal does not offer tangible outcomes, specifically concrete and time-bound steps that restore access, lower enrichment levels, and rebuild continuity of knowledge. It is in this context and in the understanding that Iran retains the opportunity for redress under international law that Sierra Leone cannot agree to the text as it stands. On this issue, we believe that the principle of non-proliferation carries a much higher weight given the potential consequences. The associated risks remain high, and without verifiable measures to redress them, the credibility of the non-proliferation regime is undermined. We underscore that our vote today is not intended to support an imposition of sanctions, but rather to ensure that negotiations proceed in good faith and in full cooperation with the IAEA. It reflects our conviction that diplomacy must deliver results that preserve peace, restore confidence, and strengthen regional stability. We urge all of the parties to the JCPOA to original participants to immediately resume negotiations related to Resolution 2231. These elements together will create the conditions to de-escalate tensions, sequence concrete confidence-building steps, and bring this file back under effective verification. The regional situation remains fragile, and further de-escalation would only worsen the overall outlook. We call on all concerned parties to exercise maximum restraint and support the escalation efforts. A time-bound, negotiated diplomatic solution remains the only sustainable and viable path to resolving this matter of international peace and security. Sierra Leone will continue to work with all Council members to shape a balanced outcome that preserves the global non-proliferation regime, opposes the authority of the Council, and supports regional stability through a credible, results-oriented process under Resolution 2231. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Sierra Leone for the statement. Now I give the floor to representative of Panama.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. En el marco de nuestras intervenciones en el Consejo en relación con este asunto, hemos reiterado de manera consistente nuestra convicción de que el diálogo diplomático es la única vía para alcanzar acuerdos justos, duraderos y sostenibles. Asimismo, hemos abogado firmemente por la vía de la negociación, el respeto al derecho internacional y el fortalecimiento del multilateralismo. Esta semana, de sesiones de alto nivel, nos deja una lección clara. La cooperación internacional es indispensable para superar los desafíos más complejos a la paz y la seguridad internacionales. Por ello, lamentamos que, a pesar de los esfuerzos desplegados por todas las partes, no se haya logrado un acuerdo. Nuestro país acompaña las preocupaciones del avance del programa nuclear de Irán y reconoce las tensiones geopolíticas en ese contexto, lo que deja claro que aún queda mucho por ejecutar en este sentido. Reiteramos nuestro llamado respetuoso a la República Islámica del Irán a que se comprometa de manera plena y constructiva con el Organismo Internacional de Energía Atómica, retomando sus obligaciones y compromisos asumidos, que garantice el acceso, la transparencia y una supervisión efectiva para restablecer la confianza en el carácter exclusivamente pacífico del programa. Excelencias, nos encontramos en un momento delicado en el que debemos actuar con responsabilidad para evitar el debilitamiento del régimen internacional de la no proliferación y prevenir consecuencias que podrían ser letales para la región. Hoy, en el Día Internacional para la Eliminación Total de las Armas Nucleares, Panamá reafirma con firmeza su compromiso con la paz, la seguridad global y el desarme nuclear. Nuestro país, fiel a su vocación de puente de naciones, continuará trabajando junto a la comunidad internacional para garantizar el respeto del derecho internacional y el fortalecimiento de la gobernanza global de no proliferación, asegurando que las generaciones futuras hereden un planeta más seguro. Muchas gracias.
I thank the representative of Panama for the statement. Now I give the floor to representative of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like also to welcome you, sir, to the Security Council. I would also like to welcome the presence of the Minister of Iran. It is very important for the Security Council to be able to discuss and assess now and in the future all initiatives regarding the Iranian nuclear program and the JCPOA under the Resolution 2231. I think we can all agree on that. I wish to make the following points and expand on the reasons Greece voted the way it did. First, I wish to once again reiterate Greece's concern on the scope and nature of Iran's nuclear program. Non-proliferation is among the basic pillars of international security. It is of paramount importance. Its preservation and continued universality is in the interests of all states. Granting an unconditional extension now would only postpone the problem and shift the focus away from the difficult but necessary negotiations that are long overdue. We need meaningful negotiations and a peaceful solution. The time for that is now. Second, and consequently, allow me to stress in the strongest possible terms that diplomacy must continue irrespectively of the present state of negotiations. We do realize that at this hour this may sound difficult, if not impossible. However, it is necessary. Third, we are still in the high-level week. All the interested parties are still in the same building. We strongly urge all the sides to begin talks again, and if needs be, again after that. Fourth and final point. Even if an agreement is not reached immediately, we call upon all the primary concerned parties to keep talking. A viable and sustainable solution for the Iranian nuclear issue can only come through diplomacy and dialogue. We believe that a peaceful solution through meaningful negotiations is still within reach. An agreement will be good for all. The stakes are too high otherwise. I thank you.
I thank Representative of Greece for the statement. Now I give the floor to Representative of Slovenia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome to the Council from our side as well. Colleagues, 10 years ago, JCPOA brought about a robust regime that comprehensively addressed a pressing international security issue. It suffered some hard blows throughout the past years. Slovenia regretted the US withdrawal from the plan and Iran's cessation of its implementation. We remain concerned with the scope and transparency of Iran's nuclear program, especially the stockpile of highly enriched uranium. We have called out Iran's unacceptable disregard for its non-proliferation obligations. And we have also called out the equally unacceptable attack on its nuclear facilities. Mr. President, Slovenia voted against the draft resolution because it merely decides on a technical extension of the 10-year term defined by the Resolution 2231. It does not address any specific steps or conditions that would restore trust in the peaceful nature of the Iranian nuclear program or restore trust between the JCPOA participants. Such extension, if it is to provide space for diplomacy and encourage substantial negotiations, should come with precisely defined commitments and conditions to be met. We regret that this is not the case. This resolution seemed to do little else but divide, and this in times when we should be uniting our forces in the interest of peace. Mr. President, JCPOA truly was a landmark achievement of multilateralism. Slovenia wishes to see its regime and objectives meaningfully restored. There is no other solution to the challenge of Iran's nuclear program. We call on all sides to engage in diplomacy even after the sanctions snap back tomorrow. We call on all to engage seriously and without preconditions. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Slovenia for the statement. Now I give the floor to representative of Russian Federation again.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Признательны коллегам по Совету, которые поддержали предложенный Россией и Китаем проект резолюции о техническом продлении срока действия резолюции 2231 на полгода до апреля 2026 года и немедленном возобновлении переговоров в формате изначальных участников СВПД для поиска путей выхода из кризиса вокруг него. Те члены Совета Безопасности, которые поддержали данный документ, подтвердили свою приверженность международному праву, равноправному и взаимоуважительному диалогу, а также задачи поддержания международного мира и безопасности. Его принятие сохранило бы за международным сообществом шансы на дипломатическое урегулирование противоречий в контексте иранской ядерной программы. Сожалеем, что ряд коллег по Совету Безопасности так и не нашел в себе смелости и мудрости поддержать наш проект. Их воздержание указывает на как минимум сомнения в той деструктивной линии, которую проводят США, Великобритания и Франция, нацеленные окончательно развалить ядерную сделку и поставить крест на дипломатическом пути разрешения кризиса вокруг нее. Однако, так или иначе, своим голосованием они становятся ее соучастниками. Что же до тех, кто отказался поддержать наш проект, то никаких иллюзий теперь точно не осталось. Эти страны окончательно продемонстрировали, что все их заверения в нацеленности на дипломатическое урегулирование в контексте иранской ядерной программы все эти годы были всего лишь пустым звуком. А из выступления представителя Франции до голосования, ставшего жалкой попыткой оправдаться, было понятно, что честность и здравый смысл, а также порядочность – это то, о чем наши западные коллеги окончательно забыли. Кроме того, те, кто проголосовал против нашего проекта, таким образом выступили и против дальнейшего сотрудничества Ирана с МАГАТЭ, к чему он прямо и недвусмысленно призывал во втором постановляющем параграфе. Так что пишите на себя жалобу, коллеги, в случае, если здесь теперь возникнут проблемы. Да и в целом, честно признаться, сложно избавиться от ощущения о том, что наши западные коллеги наш проект резолюции даже не читали, поскольку практически все, к чему они сейчас призывали в этом зале, в проекте уже содержится. Господин председатель, что касается заявления Великобритании и Франции, что они якобы запустили снэпбэк, то мы категорически не признаем их состоятельность и много раз подробно излагали наши аргументы, в частности, в распространенном совместном письме министров иностранных дел России, Китая и Ирана от 28 августа. Сторона, которая сама систематически нарушает договоренность, не может использовать заложенные в ней механизмы. Об этом говорит и международное право. В частности, доктрина чистых рук, принцип пакта сун-серванда, консультативное заключение Международного суда. На это же указывают и логика, и базовая справедливость, и здравый смысл. Поэтому, что бы ни утверждали наши британские и французские коллеги, их жалоба не может служить основанием для каких-либо решений и действий Совета Безопасности. Поэтому и в процедурном, и в политическом плане исход сегодняшнего голосования означает лишь одно. Коль скоро Совет Безопасности не принял решение о техническом продлении срока действия резолюции Совета Безопасности ООН 2231, то она прекратит свое действие в соответствии с установленными в ней сроками в день завершения СВПД 18 октября 2025 года. После этого любые предусмотренные ею ограничения и правила, в том числе в отношении иранской ядерной программы, утратят актуальность. Как я уже сегодня отметил, никакого снэпбэка как не происходило, так и не произойдет. Любые поползновения вернуть к жизни антииранские резолюции Совета Безопасности ООН, действовавшие до 2015 года, неправомерны и не жизнеспособны. Отдельно хотел бы подчеркнуть, что у секретариата ООН, разумеется, нет никаких оснований для возобновления соответствующих мандатов. Любые попытки это сделать будут представлять собой нарушение статьи 100 Устава ООН и заставят нас серьезно пересмотреть свои отношения с секретариатом. Господин председатель, Россия и Китай сделали все возможное, чтобы предотвратить негативный сценарий развития ситуации вокруг СВПД и дать шанс для дипломатии. Теперь вся ответственность за любые последствия исхода сегодняшнего голосования, как для ситуации на земле, так и для дальнейшей работы Совета Безопасности, лежит именно на тех государствах, которые не поддержали наш проект. Благодарю вас.
I thank the representative of Russian Federation for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of Republic of Korea. The Republic of Korea has firmly supported a peaceful and diplomatic solution to the Iranian nuclear issue and has been duly administering its responsibility as the President of the Security Council in accordance with the Resolution 2231. Last Friday, the ROK abstained from voting in consideration of our role of the President of the Council. Today, we are doing so again and wish to note one very important point. The key objective of Resolution 2231, which was supported by all relevant parties, is non-proliferation. Accordingly, the diplomatic efforts should focus on this common object. However, this endeavor is not clear in the draft before us. As we reverted to a pre-2231 landscape, the Republic of Korea will urge all parties to rekindle the spirit of the rigorous diplomacy that produced Resolution 2231 and to demonstrate their commitment to non-proliferation through tangible action. Thank you. I resume my function as President of Council. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Said Abbas Arakchi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. President, let me begin by expressing our appreciation to Algeria, China, Pakistan, and the Russian Federation for voting yes to this draft resolution in support of diplomacy, the rule of law, and justice. I should thank China and Russia for tabling this resolution and for all the efforts they made throughout the process of informal negotiations with other parties concerned. We also thank Guam and the Republic of Korea for their decision not to vote against this draft resolution. They have all chosen the right side of history, since this draft resolution reflected a genuine endeavor to keep the door for diplomacy and dialogue open and to avoid confrontation and contest. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Iran has been a long-standing party to the NPT since 1970 and has acted as a responsible member ever since. We have pursued our inalienable right, as prescribed under the treaty, to peaceful nuclear energy with all transparency and readiness to address every question in good faith. 12 years ago, the P5+1 and Iran engaged, with foreign ministers meeting at the United Nations here and agreeing to seek a solution over the nuclear program. After 2 years of serious negotiations, the JCPOA, or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was concluded, a landmark achievement in multilateral diplomacy, unanimously endorsed by Security Council Resolution 2231. Iran fully implemented the deal, as confirmed by the IAEA in 15 consecutive reports. No country's nuclear program has ever been subjected to such rigorous inspections. Yet, in May 2018, the United States unilaterally withdrew from the JCPOA in clear violation of Resolution 2231 and international law, and began bullying other governments to follow suit. It presented no reason, no justification. Yet Iran remained fully compliant, predicated on European promises that their compensatory measures would protect the fundamental bargain of the accord, for Iran to agree to voluntary restrictions in exchange for sanctions lifting and other tangible economic dividends for the Iranian people. After more than a year of patience, and after the E3 made clear that it either would not or could not honor any of its promises, Iran was compelled to adopt remedial measures and reduced its commitments
in accordance with its rights recognized under the JCPOA. Iran's measures were lawful, gradual, and fully consistent with its rights under the JCPOA and Resolution 2231. More importantly, they were designed to re-establish the fundamental premise of the 2015 Accord. Mr. President, today's situation is the direct consequence of the United States withdrawal from the JCPOA and the E3 EU failure to take any effective action to uphold their commitments. The United States has betrayed diplomacy, but it is the E3 which have buried it. This sordid mess did not come about overnight. Both the E3 and the US have consistently misrepresented Iran's peaceful nuclear program. In doing so, they have been parroting the Israeli regime's baseless allegations. This is doubly heinous, as the Israeli regime, as the occupying genocidal regime, is the only possessor of nuclear weapons in our region. The double standards at play are appalling and painfully obvious for the world to witness. Iran categorically rejects weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons. These weapons are inhuman and contrary to Islamic teachings, as well as contrary to our defense doctrine. This principled position has been reaffirmed by Iran's supreme leader in his recent address. And yet, despite decades of unlawful sanctions, assassinations of nuclear scientists, and now outright bombings of our peaceful nuclear facilities, Iran has not violated the JCPOA, the NPT, or its safeguard commitments. While having unilaterally withdrawn from the JCPOA and bullied others to follow suit, Iran responded in good faith when President Trump called for dialogue upon his return to the White House earlier this year. 5 rounds of talks were held. On the eve of the 6th session, Israel, with US backing, attacked IAEA-monitored nuclear facilities in my country. The criminal Israeli regime murdered Iranian nuclear scientists along with their families in cold blood. In one case, killing an academic along with over a dozen relatives, including women and children. This terrorism was not called out by the E3 or condemned by the IAEA. Instead, we all saw how officials like the Chancellor of Germany openly hailed Israel for doing Europe's dirty work. In other words, Iran's pursuit of diplomacy was met with aggression. Once again, Washington betrayed diplomacy while the E3 buried it. Instead of mobilizing the Jumpstart dialogue, the E3 chose confrontation by initiating the so-called snapback mechanism. Iran, in contrast, chose diplomacy. On 9 September in Cairo, I signed a memorandum with the IAEA Director General. The measures was welcomed by the agency and the wider international community. Yet it was immediately met with unconstructive approaches from the United States and the E3. Here in New York, Iran again put forward several constructive proposals to avert an unnecessary and avoidable crisis. All were ignored. And here I have to remind the distinguished representative of France that 2 nights ago, I agreed with your foreign minister a framework agreement, but he was not able to get the agreement of the United States. The E3 and the United States acted in bad faith, claiming to support diplomacy while in effect blocking it. Regrettably, E3 chose to follow Washington's whims rather than exercising their independent sovereign discretion. The United States' persistent negation of all initiatives to keep the window for diplomacy open proved once again that negotiations with the United States lead to nowhere other than dead end, as also pronounced by Iran's supreme leader. Mr. President, the draft resolution submitted by China and Russia is a responsible move to prevent escalation and provide time and space for diplomacy. They have negotiated constructively and shown flexibility to reach consensus. The E3 and the US regrettably rejected Russia and China's fair initiative and pressured other Council members not to support it. Their words do not correspond with their actions. Their objective is to foment a crisis, not to jumpstart diplomacy. By blocking this initiative, the United States and the E3 have deepened divisions in the Council, weakened its credibility, and closed the window of opportunity they claim to seek. Mr. President, Iran's position on the E3's pursuit of the so-called snapback is clear and consistent. It is legally void, politically reckless, and procedurally flawed. We have conveyed this legal position, supported by well-documented evidence and arguments, in several letters to the President of the Council and the Secretary General. Together with Russia and China, Iran has also demonstrated the unlawful and provocative nature of E3's measures, most recently in the joint letter of 28 August 2025. That joint position made clear that the E3's 28 August communication to the Council President cannot, under any circumstances, be regarded as a valid notification under Operative Paragraph 11 of Resolution 2231. Iran has no obligations under it because the E3 breached their obligations under the JCPOA and Resolution 2231, thereby losing any right to claim significant non-performance. Their invocation of the so-called snapback mechanism is simply a stark abuse of process. The draft resolution voted on 19 September did not meet the requirements of Resolution 2231 and cannot restore terminated sanctions that have already ended. Likewise, the resolution put forward by the Republic of South Korea, on which the Council President abstained, carries no legitimacy. Attempts by Germany, France, the UK, and the US to revive terminated sanctions are therefore null and void. Resolution 2231 must expire based on the time frame agreed upon. All nuclear-related restrictions under Resolution 2231 will end permanently on 18 October 2025. Iran, along with many other countries, will not recognize any attempt to extend, revive, or enforce them after that date. We call on the President of the Security Council to declare today's decision illegal. We also call on the Secretary General to avoid any attempt to revive sanctions-related mechanisms within the Secretariat. Any attempt to restore terminated sanctions must be rejected. No resources should support this illegal mechanism. Those who pursue it will bear full responsibility for damaging the United Nations' credibility and integrity, as well as for any harm and humanitarian consequences inflicted on the people of Iran. Mr. President, the developments we have witnessed set a dangerous precedent. If agreements can be broken at will, no nation can trust international commitments. If unlawful measures are enforced by power instead of law, the Secretary Council risks losing credibility and authority. Such a situation would harm not only Iran, but the entire system of international law and collective security. The E3 and the United States bear full responsibility for the serious consequences of today's decision. By ignoring facts, spreading false claims, misrepresenting Iran's peaceful program, and blocking diplomacy, they have actively and intently paved the way for dangerous escalation. Dear colleagues, just as military attacks have failed to reach any of their declared objectives, the so-called snapback mechanism will fail too. The only solution is dialogue. The JCPOA proves this. Iran will never respond to threats or pressure. We respond only to respect. Today's decision has obliterated whatever remaining trust of the Iranian people in the promises of the West, and particularly the E3. The Islamic Republic of Iran bases its foreign policy on the wishes and sentiments of its people. It is prerogative of the E3 and the US to correct course and take meaningful action to build confidence and trust. In the meantime, we must adhere to what international law and the United Nations Charter make abundantly clear. Obligations cannot arise from invalid procedures or lack of consensus within the Security Council. And I thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Arakchi for the statement. The representative of France has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I gave them the floor. Okay.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, je serai bref. Une délégation a mis en cause l'honnêteté de la délégation française dans ses remarques. Ma délégation rappellera simplement à cette délégation que les faits sont têtus, comme disait quelqu'un il y a quelque temps, et les faits sont les suivants. Premier fait, l'Iran ne respecte pas les obligations qui viennent du traité de non-prolifération et qui viennent d'un accord signé par l'Iran. Deuxième fait, tous ces derniers jours, des discussions intensives ont eu lieu entre le ministre ici présent, dont je salue la présence, et les délégations des E3 en particulier, pour trouver le moyen de ne pas rétablir les sanctions. Ces négociations ont échoué parce que l'Iran n'a pas voulu, et je le répète, respecter 3 demandes issues directement de ces obligations. Première demande, je le répète, la reprise de la coopération effective avec l'AEA. Cette coopération n'est pas reprise puisque les inspecteurs ne sont pas en Iran et ne sont pas sur les sites qu'ils doivent pouvoir visiter. Deuxième demande, la clarté sur le stock d'uranium enrichi à 60%, qui n'a pas de justification au regard d'un programme nucléaire civil. Ce rapport n'a pas été présenté. Et je rappelle la troisième, la reprise de négociations sur le fond et non pas de négociations sur les conditions de la négociation. Deuxièmement, une délégation a mis en cause le secrétariat et ceci est non conforme aux règles qui veulent que le secrétariat ne reçoive pas d'instructions de gouvernement, mais applique ses obligations, ce qu'il fait en tout professionnalisme et dans le respect de ses responsabilités. Troisièmement, je voudrais conclure en disant que la voie de la négociation est toujours ouverte. Et en ce qui concerne la France, mais plus largement en ce qui concerne les E3 et l'Union européenne, cette voie de la négociation, pour nous, se poursuit sur les bases que nous avons énoncées, avec, je le répète, le but que le programme nucléaire iranien soit conforme aux obligations qui résultent du TNP et conforme au but d'un programme purement civil. Je vous remercie.
I thank the representative of France for the statement. The representative of Russian Federation have asked for the floor to make a further statement. I gave them floor, please.
Я хотел бы кратко отреагировать на утверждение моего французского коллеги. Жером, ваши объяснения сейчас прозвучали еще более неубедительно, чем предыдущие. Поэтому я вас прошу не брать больше слова, вы еще больше себя закапываете. Вы привели якобы факты, которые не имеют никакого отношения к реальности, забыв упомянуть о самом важном факте, о котором сказал сегодня министр иностранных дел Ирана, касающийся непосредственно вашей страны. О том, что существовала договоренность, проект договоренности между Ираном и Евротройкой, которая должна была быть утверждена и которая позволила бы избежать кризиса. Но вам пойти на эту договоренность не позволили старшие братья из Соединенных Штатов. Вот об этом факте вы забыли сказать. И это красноречиво иллюстрирует настоящую самостоятельность вашей страны сегодня на международной арене. Что касается ваших претензий в отношении секретариата, я бы хотел напомнить, что однажды одна делегация уже пыталась запустить снэпбэк и пыталась сделать это в условиях абсолютно идентичных сегодняшнем, когда в Совете Безопасности не было единства по поводу того, что эта процедура имеет под собой основание. Тогда правовое управление ООН и секретариат решили, что в условиях отсутствия единства в Совете они не могут возобновлять санкции и восстанавливать санкционные комитеты, которые уже были упразднены. Мы не видим никакой разницы между той ситуацией и сегодняшней, поэтому мы уверены, что секретариат ООН примет важные решения и не поддастся как раз вашему давлению, а не нашему. Потому что мы стоим на стороне здравого смысла международного права. А вы пытаетесь навязать всем порядок, основанный на правилах, которые вы сами сейчас же в этом зале на коленях пытаетесь сформулировать. Благодарю за внимание.
I thank representative of Russian Federation for the statement. His Excellency Mr. Said Abbas Araghchi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran, has asked for the floor for the statement. I gave him the floor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be very brief. I think in response to what the French representative said, the Russian colleague said what it should be said. Only one or 2 points. He claimed that the agency's inspectors are not in Iran, but this is absolutely wrong. They are now in Iran inspecting our nuclear facilities according to the agreement I made with Rafael Garussi, the Director General of the IAEA, signed in Cairo. There is a procedure for these inspections agreed between Iran and the agency, and everything goes exactly according to what we agreed, what I agreed with the agency. And secondly, he mentioned that Iran has not responded to any proposals. This is exactly the other way around. I have made in the past 4 or 5 days here several proposals, and none of them were accepted. And actually, I have to, as I said before, one of them was agreed between Iranian and the French delegation, but then the French delegation couldn't deliver that. So these are claims which are all false. And the other claims that he made is also the same. I don't want to take the time of the Security Council meeting, but I would like to emphasize that Iran has been always ready to prove that its nuclear program is peaceful and would remain peaceful forever. And what we agreed in 2015 as JCPOA is a proof that Iran has good faith. We negotiated that deal in good faith, we concluded that in good faith, and we implement that in good faith. And it was the United States who withdrew, not Iran. And what we are saying right now is the consequences of that withdrawal. Again, this year, the United States proposed negotiation, and we agreed. And I was negotiating with the United States when they decided to attack us. So there is no reason why we should trust the United States once more. Once we negotiated, they withdrew. This year we negotiated, they attacked us. So this is the situation. Still, when I came here, I came with very constructive proposals. Before I come here, I signed an agreement with the agency in Cairo. And the Director General of the agency is quite satisfied and happy. And the cooperation between Iran and the agency is now going on based on that agreement. And as I said, the inspectors are right now in Iran doing their job. And I made proposals which was unfortunately rejected, and I would be available to give the details of those proposals to the delegations who are interested later on in our bilateral meetings.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Araghchi for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is now adjourned.